Hi everyone, and welcome to our second webinar of 2021. My name is Tiffaine, and I am delighted to moderate this webinar on the contribution of enterprise risk management to sustainability. As I've presented before, the FERMA focus of this year is from risk to resilience, and sustainability is a big part of resilience. And as you all know, there is an increasing focus on sustainability, both politically, economically, and within society at large. And on this front, the EU is particularly ambitious, setting the target of being carbon neutral by 2050, with the European Green Deal being its new growth strategy, but also through investments and reforms that support climate objectives being at the heart of this European recovery plan. And as a result, we've seen sustainability increasingly embedded in a broad range of public policies, from accountancy to governance. And part of the role of the risk managers is to translate all these initiatives into their implication for their organizations in terms of risk, but also opportunities. And this is why FERMA considered it very important to show how risk managers can contribute to this movement. At the same time, we've noted a keenness to tackle the topic from our membership. On our European Risk Manager report of last year, it shows that 60% of risk managers are not yet involved in their organization's approach to sustainability. Hence, our publication that we are launching today, which is, I believe, the first guide specifically for European risk managers on sustainability risks. It is called People, Planet, Performance, the contribution of ERM to sustainability, and you can download it from FERMA website. This guide is based on good practices of sustainability risk management from leading risk managers. And I'd like to take this opportunity to really thank the members of the FERMA Sustainability Committee for their hard work to produce this guide, but also all the other risk managers who took the time to answer our questions and share their knowledge and experience. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by three of these outstanding risk leaders who will share with you their perspective and expertise on sustainability risk management. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Valentina Paduano, who is a Chief Risk Officer, but also Sustainability Director at Sogefi Group. It's a leading global supplier of original parts for the automotive industry. Valentina is also a FERMA board member leading on the topic sustainability.
Thank you very much, Tiffaine.
Okay, Valentina, I think we lost Tiffaine. She has a connection issue. So we will continue with of course, Philippe Noirot. Philippe Noirot, who is a Group Risk Management Deputy Director at Orange, an international multi-service operator. And we finally have, of course, Adriana Cavaliere, who is the Corporate Risk Manager at Skies, the public company in charge of air traffic safety in Belgium. So welcome to all of them. Let's try to start with, I would say, a basic question. I will go to Adriana. So Adriana, I would like to ask you a key term, which is sustainability. So how would you define this today?
First of all, thank you for having the opportunity to be here and join this sustainability webinar. And then let me start by sharing our FERMA definition as set by our FERMA Sustainability Committee. So we see sustainability as a driver for encouraging business to frame decisions in terms of financial, environmental, including climate and biodiversity, social and human effects, ensuring resilience and long-term value creation. A broader and forward-looking definition inspired by the European Commission's definition and complemented with some important key aspects. So alongside environmental, social and human effects, we do also consider the financial, positive as well as negative effects as an important element in the decision-making. A decision-making with focus on resilience and value creations. So let's say two fundamentals of the future-proof risk management. However, as for risk management, also for sustainability, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. It's important to have a right understanding of sustainability within your company, including the broader business environment and its stakeholders, and then to translate this sustainability definition to your own company context. And all this in view of an overall understanding, but moreover, a wide company engagement. Since we do very often make the mistake by assuming that everybody knows what it is all about, since everybody's talking about it, or assuming that everybody understands it in the same way. However, nothing is less true. For example, when looking at the aviation sector I am active in, and talking about sustainability, it goes without saying that you talk about aviation sustainability, but it does not stop there. Besides aviation sustainability, we have also corporate sustainability. And when talking to my colleagues of IT and security, it will become clear that technological sustainability is at the center. Therefore, it is very, very important to define what sustainability is all about in your company, what the scope is, and all the interdependencies related to sustainability. But even more important here is, as said also by Simon Sinek, starting with the why. Why should your company consider sustainability? This being the foundation of your company's sustainability strategy and everything that is around it. Very, very important, and that's the way we look at it at SKYS.
Thank you very much, Adriana, and sorry for this technical issue, but I'm now back. Philippe, is there something you would like to add to what Adriana said and based on your own experience?
Yes, Stephen, thank you, and hello to everybody. I think Adriana did well already, and the definition that is on screen is quite good. I can witness that we suffered a bit to define this together, so it means that probably it's going to suit to most of you, but maybe not all of you. And anyway, you need to customize this to the context of your company, as Adriana said. But beyond giving a definition of sustainability, which is already on the screen, as I said, I'd rather mention the proximity between sustainability and two other terms, two other words we are used to in risk management. The first one is resilience. I think there is no need to demonstrate that sustainability is also a question of resilience. And the second one is business continuity, because resilience needs business continuity as a trigger in order to remain in life. Then, to keep it short, because it's only an introduction, I would say that to some extent, sustainability is not new. This concept has always existed at least in its financial meaning. The purpose of a company, once it borns, is really to avoid bankruptcy, so to remain sustainable financially speaking.
Thank you, Philippe. Valentina, so you are sustainability director for your company. So is there something that you can bring and you want to stress specifically for the automotive or transport sector?
Yes, Stefan, thank you. I think that sustainability is strongly linked to the business operation. I think that I said this sentence a lot of times, and I think also that the main challenge for the risk managers in general is to convince the top management about that. There are some industries like the automotive where I work, where it is easier because the customers is pushing the entire supply chain to take into account the sustainability topics as the basic requirements at the same level of other traditional ones like the price, the product, and so on. So just to give you such examples, my company as a supplier of key components for the car makers is obliged to comply with the specific ESG requirement to have the possibility to participate in the quotation process. So it's a really mandatory point. That means to meet requirements from definition of policies, for example, on human rights and working conditions or specific code of ethics, that needs to cover specific ESG topics. And this helps to demonstrate the commitment of the company towards such a social aspect. Or, for example, they ask us to have a certified system for the health and safety, for the energy management, for the environmental management. And again, they would like that the companies, the suppliers, define clear and quantitative targets to achieve the carbon neutrality. Often in advance respect the EU targets, 10 years more or less in advance of the European target. Of course, the definition of the target is not enough. They would like to have the evidence of the actions taken to achieve this target. So these are not only a formal compliance for us, but it requires a concrete implementation and change management that starts, of course, from a clear strategy settings.
Indeed, yeah, interesting. And so basically there are, I think, possibly a lot of people watching us who maybe don't know how concretely risk managers, contribute to the organization goals on sustainability. So Adriana, could you explain about how this works for you concretely?
Okay, the contribution of us risk managers. For me, a key in this contribution is, first of all, making sustainability part of the bigger picture, and also building bridges, and finally integrating sustainability-related risk, just as other enterprise risk, into the overall company risk profile, bringing everything together, and all this in view of decision-making and why we are doing it, our strategy realization. So the contribution of the risk manager is important. Very often we also hear risk managers are facilitators. And I would like to go even a step further and say that a risk manager is the kind of the corporate glue, the corporate catalyst, and somebody who's really enabling so effective sustainability consultation, but then from different perspectives throughout the whole company. This is for me a very important one. And furthermore, when looking at that sustainability in view of your company strategy realization, there is also an added value in changing your risk management approach, your current risk management approach is seen. So the growing importance of the sustainability, we have to go here also beyond traditional risk management. So, and evolve from more the post-strategy approach to a pre-strategy mindset. So it's really looking at what is happening in the world now and also in the future, and what will come next, as also set out in the World Economic Forum Global Risk Report. And as important is how all this can be translated to your own company. So this is going to be different for each company. And even within the companies, you will have various options. And therefore, it is really important that you go for a out-of-the-box thinking, a kind of scenario forward-looking approach as to better understand this global sustainability evolution. It's really important, understanding the global sustainability evolution as a risk manager. And having said this, also how that this evolution can impact the future of your company. So to better you understand this as a risk manager, so also the better that you can help your company navigate into the right direction by suggesting right options, right actions, right decisions, and also to help in adjusting the strategy accordingly. So, and also, since there is no such thing as only one future, because uncertainty is part of the business, and which certainly applies to sustainability, what matters more is how to overcome these sustainability uncertainties. And as a risk manager, you can contribute by looking, first of all, at additional insights and looking for opportunities for those actions that have no downsides and can produce an extra value, along also with minimizing the losses of your worst case scenarios. And I would like to conclude with a quote of a strategy consultant during our last BELRIM webinar on risk appetite, Philippe Gatteau. And he so nicely said it, that a good risk manager has one eye on the present and one eye on the future, accepting the right balance of risks in order to remain resilient and future-proof. And this all by first ensuring the protection of the current business model through risk mitigation and balancing the appropriate level of risk-taking, risk appetite in order to remain future-proof and avoid being blindsided into obsolescence. What brings us to what we consider as FERMA very important, evolving from risk to resilience. Thank you, Tiffany.
Very interesting. I really like this expression as well. And I like also your expression that the risk manager, you know, is a corporate glue. Fascinating.
A little bit of out of the box thinking.
Philippe, because we've heard from Adriana, and you will agree there is no one size fits all approach. So do you take a similar or a different approach, maybe influenced also by your national context? Because we know in France, there is a French law, the Pact.
Yeah. I agree with what Adriana says, and I would add that as risk manager, if I may say so, the cornerstone of the risk management role is anticipation. And it seems to me that anticipation, this matches perfectly with the objective to be sustainable for a company. So we are not lost. We are in our territory, I would say. So the contribution of risk manager is native to CSR, or let's say non-financial topics. If you take environment and climate change, for instance, there are domains which are yet a bit foggy when we deal with assessment of the consequences of the events that we can identify. So we are also used to that kind of foggy area that we have to enlighten with our work to some extent, with a lot of humility again, but that's our purpose, I would say. And in France, you're right, Tiffany, we have a law, it's called the law Pact, P-A-C-T-E. And this law offers to extend the social object of the companies towards a purpose, a higher purpose of the company, what we call a raison d'être in French, which may additionally legally integrate the bylaws when the company wants to do that. And that's what we have done for Orange as an example. This shows very well, I think, how the purpose of a company is long-term, how the purpose of a company lasts much longer than a single strategic plan or a single strategy. And if we stick to the law, it has also created even a new legal status that is called société à mission ou entreprise à mission. It's a kind of purpose-driven company status, which elevate the ESG topics and the contribution to the world as important as finance guidances, for instance. It is not only about generate profit for shareholders, but to do so in a way that will benefit the planet and the human being as well. And regarding alignment of the company's decision with the purpose and the respectfulness of the company's commitments, the contribution of risk management is evidently high, as these topics are objectives indeed by themselves. If you take a recent example, Danone, which is still the sole CAC 40 société à mission, purpose-driven company, has recently gone into a governance crisis, far or not in link with this topic of non-financial, as some shareholders, some investment funds were pushing for a dismissal of the CEO, which was, by the way, also chairman of the board of directors. So you can see that all this is important for the risk managers anyway, and we contribute to assess this kind of risk very much with CSR departments. Yeah.
Thank you, Philippe. So Valentina, if we try to summarize all these elements, so it's mentioned in the guide that sustainability risk management is a business process, and which is illustrated on the diagram that you can see on the slide. So can you elaborate on the key common themes, elements that emerge from the discussion in the Sustainability Committee?
Oh, yes, absolutely. But can I just introduce one thing, just to starting from the comments of Adriana, Tiffany,
Sure.
give me this opportunity. Adriana said, anticipate the point regarding the risk appetite. I think that one of the main contributes that risk management can provide to support the top management and the board of directors understand is exactly to understand that the company can be exposed to a strategic risk of losing business, market share, and competitiveness if concrete action on sustainability are not taken. And clear messages on that must be communicated in the proper way to the market, to the stakeholder and to the shareholders in general. I think that is a really important point. And I think also that the risk manager should support the organization to develop a proper risk appetite for sustainability. As of today, my perception is that sustainability is not yet part of this type of conversation in a lot of organizations. Now let's move into this slide. So the strategy goals definition and the risk appetite is the starting point of our risk management process that integrate the sustainability. Of course, what we sustain within our sustainability committee is that we can adopt the common enterprise risk management process to the sustainability as risk assessment. Why? Because the sustainability risks can be managed at the same level of other kinds of risks, and so in the same way they can be managed like financial risks or operational risks. So what this means, what we do usually in our enterprise risk management process, we customize the assessment scenario based on the risk that we analyze. So what is important is firstly to understand the preliminary setting and the context in which this risk, let me say, operates. So this means clarify why risk is considered critical for my organization, what are the context conditions that create some challenges for the business. For example, the geographical location of my production sites in a risky workplace, or the emerging changes in customer behaviors determining, for example, introduction of a new kind of product in the marketplace from competitors, and so on. Then we can move to the risk assessment and the treatment. What this means that we usually list first of all the root causes that could generate the risks, so the triggering events of a risk and the related potential business effect. What can happen at the business if the risk occurs? This is the main question that we have. We can have a temporary business interruption of production sites. We could have a slow deterioration of volumes, for example, in the medium term. So based on that questions and these answers, we should be able to quantify the risk damages and understand the exposure amount of our risk. Of course, another important step is to consider the adequacy of the internal control system, so that it is able to mitigate the potential risk consequences and then offset totally or partially the potential damages. The last point, but it is still really important, is the risk reporting and communication and disclosure. That, from a sustainability point of view, is also one of the main key topics, because we have we have main directives and regulations that ask the company to have a detailed disclosure on how the company manage the sustainability topics. Of course, the company should guarantee not only an external disclosure in terms of information provided to the market, but firstly, the company should be aware, or internally within the organization should create a consolidated and transparency information flow regarding the sustainability risk topics. So just to summarize, starting from the strategic point of view and the risk appetite decisions, what we sustain and support with our sustainability committee is the integration and the adoption of the standard, the traditional enterprise risk management framework, also to the sustainability ESG related risk.
Thank you, Valentina. And you mentioned that that you were, of course, key elements in this process is really the assessment of sustainability risk. But we know it is difficult when we are speaking about ESG related risks. So how do you assess sustainability risk, and why is it so difficult to assess, to quantify these risks?
Yes, as already said, what we should do is to apply what we already do in our traditional job. The main difficulty is, from my point of view, is let me say, related to the poor knowledge regarding specific risk topics, like, for example, climate change or some related risks related to the CO2 emissions and so on. So these kind of topics that are really technical topics for a traditional risk managers create some concern and some difficulties in our job today. And from my point of view, we have two main concrete options. The first one is to invest in the continuous improvement of our profession. What this means? This means improve the risk management knowledge, the risk manager knowledge by training, by studying specialized reports, and so extending our background. And at the same time, we need to reinforce the collaboration with other technical functions, such as the R&D, the engineering department, the HSC, function that could support our learning by doing in such technical discussion in order to support the integration of their knowledge in the risk management perspective. What this means also? This means that some sustainability topics in this way and improving our knowledge, the risk manager knowledge in sustainability can help us to translate the sustainability concept, the sustainability discussion in a business key language in order to support the top management to take this kind of decision at strategic level. This is also an important aspect that we tried to address through our risk management guide that we are promoting today. So this is my perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Valentina. And Philippe, what is your view? Do you agree that increasing knowledge on sustainability, collaboration with the other departments is key to improve the assessment of sustainability risks?
Yeah, and the question is not only assessing, but for sure it's full of issues when you speak of assessment of these risks and identification. I used to say, when I speak of risk management, I used to say risk management is firstly management. When I speak to managers, I say that. And when we prepare this meeting today, I said sustainability risk is firstly a risk. So if we are in an ERM approach, it's a risk amongst others. There are risks amongst other kinds of risks. So it means that we will face the same difficulties, maybe a different way, but the same kind of difficulties as for other risks. Valentina already explained some identification, assessment, and treatment approach. I would say that for the ESG risk, the first challenge is identification. How can you identify something which is sometimes a very long time, 15, 20, 30 years ahead of you? Difficult. So it's also difficult to convince people around you, the top management or the managers in your company, that it is important to deal with that right now. Then what about assessment? How can you assess something in a different way that you do for the rest of the risks? It would have no sense. So it means that in your ERM approach, you should have a common assessment grid, which is global and should cover all kinds of risk, whatever they are. Then it should cover ESG ones as well. And if it needs to be wider or completed because of this new category of risk coming, then do it. And if you take some ESG topics like environment or climate, for instance, the main difficulty comes once again from the long-term materialization of this risk, which makes very difficult and challenging the likelihood assessment. It's not only a question of assessing the impact, it's also a question of saying what is the likelihood that the company will face that risk tomorrow? Probably it's very low. But in 50 years from now, probably it's very high. So it means that we need peut-être, maybe, to show two kinds of risk map, a risk map short term and a risk map medium term or long term. That's something that we have to brainstorm together and to see if we open that in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sustainability should definitely be looked at as any other risk, basically.
Yeah.
Adriana, do you have similar, different approach?
First of all, I would like to say that I can only agree with Valentina and Philippe, and they have really underlined a lot of challenges. And yes, Valentina, Philippe, I agree with you. Having said this, from my side, I would like also to underline the importance of integrating these sustainability risks in the company risk profile. And here I also come close to what has been said by Valentina and Philippe. So to do so, first of all, it's important to apply the same risk management approach to sustainability as to other risks. And in the end, it's all about enterprise risks, as Philippe said, and sustainability does not differ from other risks. However, as mentioned by Philippe, we are talking here about domains which are yet a bit foggy, and I really like this, Philippe, when dealing with assessment of these risks. This is really about risk coming with much more unknowns, and requiring a good understanding from different perspectives, and therefore it is important to understand that you can't do it on your own as a risk manager. So collaboration is really key. And this can only work with a strong risk culture in your company. It means that risk management has to become part of your DNA. So you have to think and act sustainability risk management. I reconfirm the need of that risk language, and this has to be kept clear and simple, allowing your business colleagues to understand and to focus on the expertise and the subject matter expertise of sustainability. Next to that, also the communication and stakeholder approach, because again, you can't do it on your own. And last but not least, also a kind of conducive risk management environment. And it's our responsibility really as a risk manager to create this risk management environment. So walk the talk, be the partner at various levels throughout the organization. And if starting from here, I look at skies, I can say that sustainability is indeed managed from an enterprise risk management and integrated risk management perspective, and also covering a broader spectrum of sustainability areas. So as I mentioned already, we have the environmental aviation sustainability, the corporate sustainability, the operations sustainability in terms of technology, being a future-proof, or our ambition to be a future-proof company. And on top of that, with the liberalization of the European air traffic market, so coming with major regulations, so we have also the compliance with environmental performance targets. So this implies sustainability risks are not to be managed in isolation, but based more on a multi-stakeholder approach. And this is very important, and this is a first challenge that you have to get right from the beginning. I'm happy to refer at my first assessment on where aviation sustainability was involved, and so where I had a close cooperation with the head of aviation sustainability, because person knowing the subject and how it will evolve in the future. And my takeaways of that sustainability assessment, which also goes for other risk assessment, is listen and build a relationship with your stakeholders. Show respect and interest. Show respect for their knowledge, and never forget people are proud about what they know and they will share. And this is in the advantage of the company bringing forces together. So be also prepared on the risk management approach. Explain what is the added value of risk management for the sustainability managers. What is in it for them, not what is in it for you as a risk manager. And really keep it simple and explain how you will go from A to Z. And so by doing so, you will get also a kind of upside, which I mean that your risk management will become a kind of a communication tool more than a risk assessment tool. And that will allow for an enhanced engagement of the people involved in sustainability. So these are really, for me, my takeaways that I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, so collaboration is key, and you cannot do this alone for sure. So I'd like to ask a last question before we go to the Q&A, and also remind the audience that they can send their question using the chat. So my last question would be, what is important to you as a risk manager in order to do your job in sustainability in the best way possible? So basically, what do you consider to be a success factor? We've already, you mentioned some of keywords, collaboration, training, so on, but what is, a key success factor? If I can, start with you, Adriana.
So building on what I have said, so the language and culture, let me say that key or even an Olympic minimum as a key success for it is a strong risk foundation for risk management. So because in the end we want to have it as an enabler of resilience and value creation. There are three major building blocks. So it is a well-defined and structured risk approach, a strong leadership alongside the enhanced risk culture that I have already underlined. Good policies and procedures are very important, as explained by Valentina. However, it is not enough. So we need a strong leadership and commitment. And so it's about leadership at various levels. It's not only leadership at the top, but also at the bottom. It's top down, bottom up. A good strategy, but important in this strategy is really having clear roles and responsibilities. Because clear roles and responsibilities, having these roles and responsibilities really clearly defined will enhance your sustainability governance and risk oversight. It will also contribute to taking responsibility, risk ownership, and really avoids the pitfalls of blame of saying, oh, you were responsible, so I haven't done it. Oh, no, you were responsible. So try to avoid this with having really clear roles. So clearly define these roles. And so define also the role of a risk sponsor at senior management level, along with the role of a risk owner as a control owner, and focus on the close cooperation and a partnership between the business, the sustainability managers and risk manager. So here it's really about building those bridges between various roles. And all this will support a transversal approach and will also allow to take into consideration various aspects of the sustainability risk picture. So it's an interconnection throughout the organization that will contribute to the realization of one common risk language, one ESG language, and also being a common understanding in view of an enhanced resilience. So far my view on this.
Thank you, Adriana. And for you, Philippe, what do you consider to be a success factor?
Yeah, I fully subscribe to what Adriana says, obviously. And I would say, to answer your question, Tiffen, first I would say an enterprise is an economic actor in the world, or at least in the economic world. So as such, it has to consider the environment, the context around it. And what is a key element, additionally to what Adriana said, is for sure a strong watch system, a kind of efficient listening system to listen any noise, to detect any move in the surroundings, and to be able to capture and analyze what the stakeholders in the ecosystem want. That means obviously a dialogue with stakeholders of the ecosystem, a kind of permanent dialogue with them in order to capture the best way possible their growing expectations, because what we have found in the past years is that their expectations are growing very quickly. And because we ask a key success factor, I would say a key success factor is to convince and enable the top management as well as the management, the other layers of management, to really understand that the enterprise might be in danger because of stakeholders. And when I speak of stakeholders, I don't speak of stakeholders contractually linked to the company. I speak of those stakeholders that have nothing to do day to day with the company. NGOs, for instance, you don't have a contract with NGOs. But anyway, Total has been prosecuted for climate inaction by an NGO in France. So it means that the risk can come from far away, beyond the contractual relationship. And in fact, I would conclude on that. ESG and sustainability, these two topics demonstrate perfectly the necessity to consider extended enterprise risk, because this is nothing else but extended enterprise.
Yeah, indeed, and having a risk radar, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Valentina, what about you?
Yes, Stefan. I see three mainly success factors, also based on the best practices that have been shared during the preparation of the guide. The first one is to elevate the sustainability topic at strategic discussion, as already well explained by Adriana and Philippe. But let me add also that the risk managers could play a key role on that, because we, through our process, we have the opportunity to have periodical risk reporting, so periodical discussion about that with the top management. The second factor is the proper communication of sustainability strategies, firstly internally. Often the sustainable actions taken by the company are not identified as sustainability related, and they are not consequently communicated in the proper way. That means in a way that is recognized by the market and all stakeholders within a sustainable company vision. So we need to improve also our way to communicate the proper action on sustainability. And the last one is linked to the credibility of the risk manager role within the organization, that needs to be recognized as a key player in the decision-making process, and from now also in the sustainability management. So the risk manager needs to acquire enough background on ESG matters, able to support the management discussion at strategic level. Let me repeat again how important it is to invest in the continuous improvement of our profession and how. The role of risk manager is changed a lot in the last 10-15 years. Originally, it was recognized only for insurable events, and then it became more and more pervasive and enterprise-wide. It is a role that needs to change together with the market and the context changes. And now I think that it's time for sustainability. Now it is required to the risk manager to evolve again, integrating the ESG topics in the ERM process. I think that it is our challenge, and also the main perspective maybe for the next 3-5 years at least.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do now is to move on to the audience discussion. So this is your chance to submit questions using the chat box if you haven't done it yet. So I'll try to get through as many as we can in the next, I would say, 10 minutes. So I will take the first ones that came in. So with even more economic pressure because of COVID-19, how do you convince your internal stakeholders of the criticality of sustainability? And I think I can link it to another question, which is what other function is key to involve besides the sustainability manager? So how do you convince internally of the criticality of sustainability? Maybe Adriana, you mentioned, you know, the need for having leadership at the top level and risk sponsor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy to answer this, better to give my view on this, and really relating to an exercise that we are currently doing. So the first one, how do you link sustainability with COVID, for instance? We are all merged into the whole COVID story, which gave the opportunity to start even more working in, like I already mentioned, forward-looking scenarios, not for COVID, but what if something else in a new pandemic comes in. And there we have the structure that I have built together with all the colleagues as a communication tool is also really mentioning what are the interdependencies of a pandemic risk with other risks. So how is COVID linked to, and then you start to talk with your colleagues and you see technology risk, everything is speeding up, what does that mean? Otherwise, also opportunities. And this is linked to our ambition in sustainability as a air traffic management provider, the well-being of the people, the teleworking, so has been given a little bit of speed up, so you can connect those two things. It's really that is the that additional role of our risk manager. Like I said, step out of the box, think differently, look for opportunities, insights, and bring that on the table. And the second one, if I recall well, is how that you involve everybody. So I think that was the question, Tiffen, how did you involve also other people? So for me, it's really think up front about where you would like to go from A to Z and who you want to involve. Write a kind of risk management charter or sustainability. This is the objective of the chart of the assessment, and I want to go there with those people and those deliverables. And that works, but make sure that you have an easy working, something in PowerPoint, 3 slides, that is the basis of your communication during those assessments. And I can only say with, I think testimonials are the best things. I haven't seen my, like they called it at our place, Directeur General of our division, Adriana, I haven't seen you for quite a while, but I have heard talking about you a lot during these previous weeks. So just to say, I've been working on those scenarios and everybody saw the added value. So it's, for me, it's really summarized, get the basics right, think upfront about what you're going to say, how, easy working tools, and always think what's in it for them and for your company and the stakeholders, the extended stakeholders, as Philippe said, and you're getting there.
Mm-hmm. And Valentina being sustainability director, so it also shows, you know, the importance for the company of this topic. But what is your view?
Yes, but let me say that in reality, the pandemic demonstrates that sustainability is more important than what we can think. A lot of the actions that the companies taken during the last year are sustainable action. Just think, for example, to the implementation of strict rules and protocols to preserve the employees' health and safety, or the adoption of the smart working worldwide. That was okay, a necessity for the organization, but at the same time, it represents a key step forward to the work-life balance. So in reality, the company implement a lot of sustainable actions. So in reality, sustainability is already integrated in the business operations. What is missing sometimes the awareness of the company about that, and again, the proper, first of all, internal communication on that topic. Of course, the target of the company is to be sustainable in the long term. And sustainable means a lot of things that we already explained. And regarding the second question, the collaboration of all possible functions depending on the topic that we evaluate are really important. So from the HR, from the health and safety director, the engineering department, everyone can support the risk management in this process, and the sustainability director in this case in this process. Absolutely.
Philippe, would you like also to share your experience? So with the Loi Pacte, of course, you've been working closely with your sustainability or CSR department, but have you been working with other departments?
Yeah, we work a lot with CSR department, with communication and financial communication, though it's non-financial topics, but we do a lot of work with them. And also what I want to add is that, in fact, all that brings on the table the question of balance of resources, balance of time spent, balance of means. I mean, the question was about the crisis, the COVID crisis, and no, it's about concentrate only on one thing. That's a mistake. It's what we call the halo effect. You know, you put all your means, all your concentration only on one side, but behind you, the rest of the risks are still there. So you need to well balance all the means of the company to correctly address and manage the risk. And that's sometimes an issue because obviously the crisis is there and you need to solve the crisis, or at least to survive in terms of crisis. So it's always difficult. And the challenge of ERM, as you know, and as Adriana and Valentina said, it's a question of influencing, talking, balancing, and working with the appropriate people at the right time to try to make some progress in the management of some risk when the need is there. So it's always difficult. And the additional difficulty with sustainability is the long term, as we said already in the presentation.
Yeah. So you also all mentioned that we have to take into account, of course, all stakeholders, the external stakeholders, in addition to the internal stakeholders. So I have a question here about customers. So what can you do about customers of yours who do not have a strong sustainability approach as yours? What does anyone would like to take this one?
Difficult to speak about the customers. Most of the time, the customers, they want you as a supplier to do your best efforts. So it means to manage your own risk and the risk that they could create to you when doing what they have to do. So I would say that what the main effort for a company like Orange is firstly towards the suppliers, the vendors, and towards the subcontractors, because obviously they can behave erroneously regarding the sustainability. They can put the company Orange in danger because of lack of respect of the contract or the SLA, whatever. And if they put us in danger, then they put our customers in danger. So what we say to our customers, what we demonstrate to the customer is, guys, look, we have a policy which is a broad policy for all our purchasing, for instance, and which is a kind of security for you that we do our best effort also in the value chain before, and that's really key. I would say that what we expect from the customers is at least that they behave correctly regarding sustainability for the planet. So, but are we going to say no to sell because of a customer that would not be the best one regarding sustainability? Who wants to say that?
Yes, indeed, interesting. Valentina, what is your position?
As already said before, for in the automotive industry, customers represent the main input for definition of a sustainability strategy. They ask to the entire supply chain to be sustainable and to implement really concrete action. So for us, it's not a point of discussion, is a concrete needs, and the point is also a big challenge because, for example, regarding the carbon neutrality, we have a target at the European level of by the 2050, but a lot of customers require us to achieve the same target within the 2039. So this means 11 years before. Before then, the requirements defined at European level. So this means absolutely introduce a really big effort for suppliers. And of course, from a financial point of view, the crisis generated by the pandemic, of course, is not help, because to achieve the carbon neutrality means to invest a lot in a process of engineering, and considering that the traditional manufacturing process are based on sometimes all the production sites. So in order to achieve this target, the needs, the effort required to the company are really, really huge. But we cannot do nothing different. We have to follow this direction. So we have to follow the customer. Is a mandatory. Is mandatory.
Adriana, any view on the customer?
Yes, yeah, the aviation environment is a very particular one. So, and I can say two things now based on really sustainability related and the risk management aspect and relation customer. So with regard to sustainability, yeah, there we are together in it. So we have kind of signed an agreement and circularity. So the Brussels Airport company, we as Skies, the airlines, other players, all together, the commitment go together for it. So this is something that we consider as important, and also, like Valentina said, we have also all our regulations, and it's good that we have those. So I think whether it is regulated or not, it's an obvious thing. We have to go together for it. And if you look personally at your own personal ambitions, I think that you also want to translate those into your working environment. With regard to risk management, whether we say enterprise risk management or sustainability risk management approach, it's all the same, like we have underlined here, Philippe, Valentina, and myself. I am really in favor of peer consultation, and that's also where I've started now. And yeah, okay, the airlines being a customer of us, and we what is which position not really matters, but we have had our first consultations amongst one-on-ones, and we are learning from each other without disclosing some particularities, but really learning from each other. And that is thinking, a customer can learn from you as a supplier, but you can also learn from your supplier. And there again is that that magic of the respect, mutual respect in business and relations. And yeah, let's go from there.
Very important, trust, respect. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So this webinar has come to its end. I hope that the discussion has given you an insight on how risk managers can integrate sustainability goals into ERM. So I invite you to read the guide for further guidance. And I'm very grateful to our speakers for sharing their experience and their views on the topic. So thank you very much. Following this session, you will receive the replay of the webcast. And thank you all for joining. So we'll be happy for you if you want to join our next webinar, which will take place on the 19th of April. This time we will be speaking about the impact of COVID-19 on the 3 lines of defense. And it will be a joint webinar with ECODA, the organization representing the main national institutes of directors in Europe, and with ECIIA, the European Confederation of Institute of Internal Auditing. And this webinar will look at the changes taking place for the 3 professions, but also how we can work together more effectively. Also, I remind you to save the date for the FERMA Forum, which is taking place this year from the 10th to the 12th of October. And those of you who are REMAP certified, don't forget to log your 2 CPD points for attending this webinar. So thank you again to our brilliant panelists and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.